Right, what's up everyone? Now, today I want to go over a bit of a controversial topic. Is moving the most amount of weight possible the best idea? Now, again, this will come down to specificity on what your goal is. If you're a powerlifter and you're in season and you're peaking for a competition, obviously moving the most amount of weight possible is a good idea. But here's where the controversy comes in. If you're trying to get bigger, training like a powerlifter isn't the best idea. I'm going to get into what I mean with that, and that's what the video is for. So let's take the big three. So we have a low bar squat, a bench press with a super huge arch and out the widest grip possible, and then we have a conventional deadlift or a sumo deadlift with the widest stance possible where you're shortening the range of motion. Now, these are all great movements for strength and producing the most amount of force and putting the most amount of load on the barbell and then putting up a good total at a competition. But these movements are not the best to actually build muscle. So what we need to look at, what are the three things that are going to be huge for hypertrophy? So it's number one, mechanical tension. Number two is muscular damage itself. And then number three is metabolic stress. Now, as long as an exercise can, let's say, load the muscle through a full range of motion, we can achieve them things by multiple different ways. We don't need to be so set in stone with the big three. And that sort of thinking and dinosaur thinking is holding you back. So this is coming from myself. I've been involved in powerlifting for many years, and I used to think that it was all about the big three. If you build your big three lifts, you're going to get bigger. Now, obviously, you're going to build an okay physique doing that, but if you really want to be as big as you possibly can and jacked as you possibly can, for most people, just getting bigger and stronger on these three isn't the play. Now, I've broke down a list of different exercises that I think are superior for, let's say, getting bigger and hypertrophy style training instead of the big three. Now, I'll go through the squats first, then the bench presses, and then the deadlift variation are the ones which I think are better for actually building muscle, and I'll give you the reasons why. So let's talk about the low bar squat. Now, we all know the low bar squat, it's lower on your traps, lower on your upper back. People use the widest stance that they possibly can to move the most amount of weight. If we're trying to build the biggest legs possible, as I said, yeah, sure, you're going to build some muscles doing low bar squats, but they come with a ton of fatigue. As you get extremely strong and you start getting to the 400, 500, 600 pound mark squat, the amount of wear and tear on your joints that's going to provide, it's just, sometimes it's not worth it if you're trying to get bigger, okay? Plus the wide stance, again, you're going to be using a lot more glutes, a lot more lower back, you're using a lot of muscles to move the weight. So if we're trying to get bigger legs, we need to change up from the low bar squat to variations which are going to, let's say, help us build bigger legs. So let's get into it. So an easy thing that we can do straight away, we change the bar position from a low bar to a high bar. What that's going to do, it's going to increase the range of motion, you're going to have more knee flexion. So again, that's exactly what we want for if we're trying to get bigger quads. Same, high bar, pause squat, pausing in the whole of the squat, you're going to take that stretch reflex out of it, more time under tension. Again, because it's a high bar position, you're going to have more knee flexion, you're going to be forced to use less loads. So it's just a win-win when you look at your overall training plan as a whole, being able to get a great stimulus without the weight that you'd need with the low bar squat. It's just going to improve other areas of your training as well. So then you've got front squats, again, more knee flexion, the load is in front of your body like this. You can either use the Olympic lifting grip, you can use straps like I've got videos on, or you can use the cross arm grip, whichever one suits you. But again, great stimulus on the quads and the upper back. So again, you don't have to use as much weight. A Platt squat, now very popularised by Tom Platt. He used to squat with a very, very close stance. Now you can do this with a raised heel. You can slide some plates under your heel, and again, it's going to be a very close stance, and you're going to achieve more knee flexion, a lot more stress on the quads. You won't have to use as much weight as a low bar squat. Then you have an SSB, one of the best pieces of equipment for the gym, the safety squat bar. Again, the positioning on your back, the way you have to load it, it's a lot different than a low bar squat. It's going to put a lot more emphasis on the quads. And then we have honourable mentions. Do not forget about hack squats, leg presses and belt squats. These are all machines. You also have things like pendulum squats. In my opinion, I think the hack squat and the leg press are some of the best quad builders out there. It's not all about a low bar squat. As I said, you can load these to a full range of motion and you won't have to use as much weight. Fantastic exercises. If your gym has hack squats, leg presses, belt squats, utilise them. If your gym doesn't have a hack squat, I've also got videos on doing Smith machine hack squats, so that's another good alternative as well. Don't be so stuck in thinking you have to do low bar. So that's the squats out of the way. Now let's get into the bench presses. Now again, people think, okay, if you can bench 4 plates, you're going to have a big chest. Not necessarily. If you've got a huge arch on a bench press and you're moving the barbell about this much with a super wide grip, that's not putting a lot of tension or stress on the pecs. If you want to build a big massive chest, it's not the way to do it. So here's some better variations for you. Okay, close grip bench. Even just bringing the grip in a couple of inches, you're going to increase the range of motion. It's going to put a little bit more stress on the triceps, but you're still working your pecs. So again, you're making the exercises more difficult. Same principle with an extra wide grip bench. Okay, so if you're someone who has long arms or even shorter arms, if you put your grip a little bit wider than usual, you're going to get more of a stretch on the pecs. Again, potent stimulus for growth. Larson bench. Now this is a variation. I've also got videos on this on YouTube you can go and see. It's where you put your feet up, you don't use any leg drive, you take a lot of stability out of the movement, so it just relies on your pecs, delts and tries to move the load. Great bench press exercise, and again, you can't use as much load as a normal bench press. Then we have a pause bench, simply just pausing in the bottom of the bench press, eliminating the stretch reflex. It's going to put more stress on the pecs again. None of this touch and go, bouncy trampoline rep shit that people do. It's not effective for growth at all. So pauses is a simple way to make the movement harder and get more out of less weight. Swiss bar bench, also known as a football bar, so you can use multiple different grips, from neutral grip, maybe a semi-pronated, semi-neutral grip. Again, you can get a greater range of motion with this barbell. It's a great tool to use. What I haven't wrote down here is also a cambered bar. That's also something you can get a deeper stretch on the pecs as well. Great exercises. And then you have things like dumbbell presses, both from a flat incline. With a neutral grip, you can vary the angles. You've even got things like weighted dips, even machine presses, which I haven't wrote down here. All of these exercises are great for building pecs. Do not just be stuck in the dinosaur thinking of you have to use a bench press and all you should do is improve your bench press and your pecs will grow. There's more to it than that. So that's the bench press. Now let's get into the deadlift, the most interesting one and my favourite one to talk about. So, conventional. Automatically for me, if we're trying to build muscle, deadlifts, conventional or sumo, they're not optimal. Especially a sumo. A sumo is just a very wide stance, shortest range of motion possible. You're trying to build muscle, sumo deadlifts are not the best idea whatsoever. Conventional deadlifts are better than sumo deadlifts for building muscle, but conventional deadlifts themselves are still not the best or most optimal way to build the posterior chain. Now I've got some variations that you should be utilising if you're trying to build bigger glutes, bigger hamstrings, bigger spinal erectors. These are much better in order to achieve that. So Romanian deadlifts, I spoke about this before. The weighted stretch components with a Romanian deadlift, it starts from the top. You put a lot more stress and tension on the posterior chain because you don't go to a dead stop from the floor as well. So that weighted stretch and the time and the tension on a Romanian deadlift elite, I put them at the top of posterior chain builders. You can also do them with a snatch grip, so you're going to widen the grip. Again, that's going to increase the range of motion. You need a certain prerequisite amount of mobility to be able to do them, but if you can, you're going to be in a good spot. Again, another great deadlift variation. I put these below Romanian deadlifts. It'll be deficit stiff leg deadlifts. I found these out from Dan Green many years ago. So you do stiff legged deadlifts from a raised platform, maybe stick a plate down, 2 plates as you get your mobility better. Great exercise. Again, more range of motion on the posterior chain, fantastic stretch on the glutes and hamstrings, a potent stimulus for growth. So that's a deficit stiff leg deadlift, and you have normal stiff leg deadlifts. Again, you don't have to do them from a deficit. You could start out with stiff leg deadlifts, and then over the course of a few months, you build up to do deficit stiff leg deadlifts. So you're going to be in a good spot. You have normal snatch grip deadlifts. Again, you're going to be widening the grip, which improves the range of motion, puts a lot more stress on the glutes, hamstrings, and upper back again. Anything snatch grip and deadlifts just go great hand in hand. It's just phenomenal. And then we have a snatch grip deficit deadlift. Now this is something that I got from Charles Poliquin. If you don't know who he is, you should do. Now, snatch grip deadlifts on a deficit, so not only are you improving the range of motion with your grip, you're standing on a deficit as well. So can you just imagine that? You're doing a snatch grip while increasing the range of motion. Think how much harder your glutes, hamstrings, lower back, upper back, everything has to work with that. You're telling me that that's not going to add pounds of muscle onto your posterior chain. It's going to be much more effective than a conventional sumo deadlift. You're also not going to have to use much weight. Come on, it's a no-brainer. And finally, a good honourable mention is good mornings. Now you can do these with a barbell or an SSB, but again, these are loaded from the top. You're also not going to be able to use as much weight just because of the shall we say, the way the force is distributed around the body in comparison to an actual deadlift from the floor. So a moment's arm is a little bit different when the barbell is on the, it starts from the top instead of the bottom. So again, you're going to get a lot out of this movement with not as much weight as you need for normal deadlifts. Definitely an underrated movement that you should start off light with as well, because if you do them wrong, they can be potentially dangerous, but as long as you do them right, you'll be fine. So that's just a little, if you look at this, like six to seven different exercises for each movement pattern instead of the conventional big three. Now, I'd advise you all just to watch this video again, take some notes and have a look at your own training. Are you doing everything you possibly can to get as big as you can, if that's your goal? If you're sitting there and you're trying to get as big as you can, but you're just plowing away with low bar and normal bench and conventional deadlifts, just take a step back and have a think what your main goal is. I fell into the same trap as what probably some of you are doing, but I've rethought everything over the last year, and I've made some changes to my training, and I'm getting better results for it. So don't be so stuck in this powerlifting dogma and the dinosaur method of you just got to do the big three. That's all you need. You're gonna have plenty of holes in your game if you just stick to these three. So I'd utilise some of these and you're going to get better gains. So just let me know what you think of the video. Any questions, any comments, just drop them down below. Let me know if you want to see any more videos on certain topics. I'm happy to just get the whiteboard out like this and just shoot the shit and go over things. So you just let me know what you think and what you want to see coming out of me again in the future. Talk to you soon.